Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Becoming a Professional. I'm your host, Riley Ramos, and we are here at the podcast place in Long Beach, California. So, you boys always moving around, and this time we landed a spot here in California on the West Coast. So, I'm excited for today's guest as he's been very active with BAP's local scene here on the West Coast. Please welcome the office managing partner of Aldrich Advisors Orange County office, Bobby LaCour. Let's
Yeah,
go.
let's do it. I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. And I mean, huge shout out to our contact, Mark Judd, the man, the myth, the legend.
Absolutely.
Like if it wasn't
Absolutely.
for him, I wouldn't be able to leverage my network. So listeners, another example of having to leverage your network because it broadens that and you get to meet new people. And that's how I was able to get in touch with Bobby here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
heard a lot of
Absolutely.
good stuff about you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Likewise. And excited to be here and have the opportunity to share some of my experiences. So,
Yeah, no, love it. So before we get into the meat and potatoes of things, we do have a disclaimer, just run of the mill. So like the opinions in this podcast are our own and may not reflect the position of Beta Alpha Psi or our respective employers as a whole. So
mhm, fair.
housekeeping, check.
Check. Got it. Love that.
Well, yeah. So I mean, let's dive into it.
Yeah.
So origin story. Where'd you go to school,
Yep.
and then what made you decide to major in accounting?
Yeah. Absolutely. So I attended the University of San Diego in San Diego, California. Did both my undergraduate and master's work there. It was a super exciting time because they were rolling out a combined program the year I was going through it. So it was a nice, easy way for me to roll into the program to do both, to get the 150. That was a
Yeah,
big thing.
yeah.
That was like the origins of 150 was happening right then. So it was pretty exciting. In terms of accounting, I was exploring the options as I was going into the university, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was split between considering engineering because I grew up in a place that
Ooh, okay.
aerospace engineering was basically core to the city that I grew up in. It was basically everything that was around. And so I just had a lot of exposure to it, even if I didn't directly know exactly what it was. Seeing it on a day to day basis was obviously there. I couldn't avoid it. In accounting, I had a couple of family members who were in accounting, and
Okay.
so I didn't know, but I didn't ask them specifically what they did. I knew they were both involved, and so it led me down the path to at least explore what those were. And once I got to the university, we weren't required to declare right away, but one of the biggest things that I did was just go to different club meetings and got exposure to what was out there, what was possible. And then I took my first accounting class, my financial accounting class. And for me, the thing that was the most exciting about it was not, oh, it clicked, oh, it was easy. It was really just it gave me the first opportunity where I really saw business for what it was. And I could see numbers that represented what a business did. And so we had projects where it was go look at financial statements for companies. And so I could go look up a financial statement. And I think at the time, I looked up Gateway, which is now part of Hewlett Packard.
Okay.
Um, and so I got to see what their financial statements looked like. And it really it brought to light the business side of things, but it gave me something tangible to actually look at and read.
So
And so
definitely be more hands on.
yeah, I was hooked at that point because I could see the business and see the operations of how to sell a computer. I could go to their store and see people selling computers, but then I could also see what the results of that was, and that was really impactful for me.
Okay. And then so during your college career, how did you find out about Beta Alpha Psi?
So Beta Alpha Psi was pretty instrumental, I think, in terms of how it functioned on the campus at the University of San Diego. A lot of events were done in conjunction with the Accounting Society, but some were done independently. I was introduced on campus first to the Accounting Society. That was done my sophomore year, and it was based on people like Mark Judd who are coming into classrooms and talking about, hey, this is a different avenue. Instead of just the book education that you're going to actually get exposure to people within industry. You're going to get an opportunity to see what it would be like to work in, let's say, public accounting or to work in private accounting and really get a sense for what your potential career could look like. And then Beta Alpha Psi was just this natural extension of that, of learning, but also being able to give back. And so as soon as I was introduced to both of those, it was really exciting for me because I could see then I could make the connection with where my career was going to go. And so that was the first introduction, and then the biggest introduction that I got was actually the first regional meeting that I got to attend. That was on the campus of the University of San Diego,
Okay. Okay.
and so I got to attend, even though I was a pledge for Beta Alpha Psi at that point, and just got to see the inner workings a little bit and what really the potential for the organization was.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember the classroom visits, for pre-existing members,
Yep.
um, and it just so happened that where the meeting was being held was where I already had a class in that classroom,
Hmm.
before and after. So
Right.
I told myself, "Oh, okay, it's free food, might as well. Like
Exactly.
I'll be there." And then that's
Exactly.
how I got my start in Beta Alpha Psi, and
Yeah.
then from there, just like it just stuck. And then what was my first regional meeting? I believe it was Towson. It was in yeah, Towson, and it was crazy because that was my initial exposure to like how big this organization actually is,
Yes.
and it's not just your local accounting club.
Right. Right. And that was the biggest transformational piece for me, is being a Western regional and seeing it was very easy for me to see University of San Diego, San Diego State University are separated by less than 10 miles. It was easy for me to have connection with those two schools prior to coming. And I could understand what the potential impact of the on the profession in the local San Diego market was. But then we got to see other schools, schools from different states.
Mhm.
And that's where it really started to resonate. Oh, this is a lot bigger than I really even could fathom,
Right.
in terms of what that looked like as an organization and a community. Really, that's what I viewed it as a community of um, aspiring accountants and financial professionals, and that was really exciting for me. So
Yeah. And you were, I mean, also active in your chapter too because you served as an officer?
I did, yeah. So I was a vice president. Being there 5 years, I got to have a little bit of extra time, so I got to
Mhm.
see it. I was a lower ranking officer and then vice president of the Zeta Kappa chapter for a year and a half, actually. So it was really
Nice.
exciting for me to be a part of.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, because it's super relatable that you talk about transitioning into the master's program,
Hmm.
because at ODU, pretty much did the same thing.
Yep.
So finished my well, actually, started 2 years in community college,
Okay.
transferred to university for my bachelor's, and then after that, pretty much dove into the master's program, year and a half
Sure.
program, and I honestly stuck with ODU for the master's program mainly because to have more time in Beta Alpha
That's
Psi.
it.
So because when I finished out my time for my bachelor's, I was serving as the chapter secretary,
Okay.
and so after that, I was like, you know what, I really want to make a difference. I want to um, be more active at the
Hmm.
chapter. I still have stuff that I can. There are different ways I still want to contribute.
Sure.
So stuck around for my master's program. Served as president. We got what was it, the gold chapter 2 years in
Hmm.
a row.
Hmm.
After finding out about how this is a thing, and
Right.
it was one of those goals that I had set
Yep.
that hey, as secretary, I'm going to take all the pictures that I can throughout the year to build this video.
Yep.
We got it that first year, and I think it had been like over 5, 7 years since we were
Wow.
last a gold chapter.
Okay.
And so after getting it once, stuck around, president, like, hey, we're gonna get this again. We're
Yeah.
like it's something that like put us on the map.
Sure, sure. And I think that's a big thing of when you're able to continue and to have a little bit more longevity, you really get to see the impact that you can have. And so
Oh, big time.
that was the biggest thing for me of being there and being in an extended position of leadership was I went and I was started my journey with a group of people. I then got introduced to a whole new group of people that then, basically my academic career spanned essentially 10 years from when I started to when I ended in terms of the connections that I had. And I thought that was super cool because people that were freshmen, individuals that were freshmen when I was a senior versus when I was a sophomore and early my junior year, and people that were seniors or in their fifth year. I mean, that's a long period of time that you're being exposed to people that are going to be in your network, and have an impact on your career. So I thought it was really interesting, and it helped lead to kind of the legacy of the chapter, which I also thought was pretty awesome. So
Yeah, and now fast forward, being on the other side of
yeah.
table, being as a professional, we're still
Mhm.
giving back to
Yeah, absolutely.
organization. So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I was really and have been very fortunate in terms of, being able to give back and be a part of this amazing organization. Whether it was in my time while I was still in school or after, I've gotten a chance to serve on a number of different panels since I've
Yeah,
graduated, whether it be at a regional meeting or at a national meeting or even just local meetings, at University of San Diego's campus. I've been part of initiations for the Zeta Kappa chapter. I've been, I mean, anytime, and I've been a guest speaker too many times to be able to count.
I feel that. I feel
So
that.
so just any opportunity that I get to be able to be on and be involved is an incredible opportunity. The last time that I was on a panel was just actually right before the pandemic started, and I remember vividly just that discussion and getting to interact with some really amazing professionals I was on the panel with, but also being able to connect and really give some insights into what the profession looked like with these students. I just feel like every time I'm able to give back, it's just this incredible opportunity to share a connection with somebody in a different way than I would. Nobody's looking at me as the professional accountant
Mhm,
necessarily. They're looking at me as somebody that's just a mentor or a big brother, somebody that's a little bit
exactly.
further along in their journey than they are. So,
Yeah, because I feel like at the meetings, the alumni panels are always well attended
mhm.
because students want to have that interaction with
Yeah,
someone who's been in their shoes. So always, whenever there is an opportunity to be back on
right.
campus, I'm already there.
Yeah,
It's one of those things where my local chapter, they can always expect that, hey, if they need someone, I'm always there, and I'm always able to give that perspective of, hey, if it wasn't for Beta Alpha Psi, I honestly wouldn't have anything that I have now.
right. I totally agree. I mean, I think that's the reason why I ended up in the job that I started with. I think it's the reason why I have, I mean, I think this is the most important thing, the network that I have and the
Mhm.
ability to have connections. And it's this universe, almost this universal language. Oh, you're a part of Beta Alpha Psi. Okay, so was I. And it doesn't matter where you were. That's an opportunity for you to make that connection. It's the easy icebreaker.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny too because at the conferences, I'll if I'm in the elevator with students, there are like just a few default questions I'll ask that are easy icebreakers to get them going and get just make them comfortable
Yeah.
as far as like anyone competing in best
Right.
practices, anyone doing chapter operations, or just what sessions are y'all looking forward
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
seeing?
absolutely. And I think those are some incredible opportunities that I didn't necessarily understand when I was as as a student. I didn't understand being able to present a best practice. I didn't make that connection to what that looked like in the real world. And once I started my career, but the ability to do something like public speak, and even if you fall completely flat on your face,
Mhm.
you're doing it in such a safe environment where everybody understands because you're all in the same
Mhm.
position together that it creates this safety net for you. And I think it propelled me. It really did propel me to be able to be successful when I go and I have to give a presentation on something that I don't really know all that much about now in my career, but be able to do it with some confidence that I from skills that I gathered a very, very long time ago in the safety of Beta Alpha Psi.
No, that's actually a really good transition into the main topic for this episode, growth mindset.
Yep.
And so, looking back, how did you feel that that impacted your career? Like having just growth mindset in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah. Growth mindset for me has been, I think, paramount to any success that I've had. Because, and I'll butcher this quote, but you either win or you grow, right? That's
Okay.
something that I've
Okay.
followed a long line in my growth. So any opportunity that I've had, either I've felt like I've quote unquote won, or I've learned something that helps me be better in the profession and be more successful. And that started early, whether it was me interviewing with a prospective company that I wanted to maybe work for and maybe not getting the opportunity, or maybe meeting a person that I thought would be a really great connection
Mhm.
And turns out that we didn't
Just wasn't a good
still
fit.
it wasn't a good fit. There was a lot of that has happened in my life, and so but the growth mindset that I've kept has allowed me to be successful and to be able to continue to move those steps forward.
Right. And so what made you decide to specialize in not-for-profits?
So not for profit, I'd say more than anything, not for profit chose me.
Ooh,
I've had an overabundance of opportunities within my career. A lot of things that I've gotten a chance to try and do and see within the firm. I've gotten to work on, basically every type of client. We don't work with any publicly traded companies on the attest side,
mhm.
but basically any type of small business, medium sized business, we've gotten a chance to work with. But what has happened is I my background, I'm a mom that was a teacher, the career educator.
Okay.
I have a dad that spent a lot of his time when I was a kid giving back to our local community and the little league and sports leagues. So I've always had this position where of giving back. It's just been ingrained in who I was, and it turns out that Aldrich also shared that. And so we've had people that founded the firm were mayors of their local cities or
Oh my gosh.
board chairs of multiple nonprofit organizations. It is just ingrained in our DNA and who we are. And so, as a practice, having that and having this background of working and giving back, it just seemed like a natural way for me to be able to provide the services, my skill set of accounting. But how do I give back? And I don't always, not that this isn't true, but giving back to one person, and if it's a small business owner, you're just giving back to that one individual versus if I'm working with a nonprofit, I'm giving back to the whole community. And it's just it's selfish in that way, but also a little bit selfless because I know that if we do an audit for a nonprofit in California, they're able to then operate their business, which I think is super cool and be able to help hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah. And even tying it back to interactions with the chapters, it's one of those things where we are always saying to like figure out ways to like pay it forward.
Yep.
And I always tell my like my members, my candidates, people who are applying to become members that depending on like how active you are, it
Hmm.
really gives back dividends like
Yeah.
moving forward. And it's one of those things where it's funny because I treat them as if they're like kids
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
want them to be like a better version of yourself.
Right.
So like, hey, I've already gone through whatever mistakes I've learned, and I mean, what's the saying? Do as I say, not as I do,
Right.
in such a way. But it's one of those things where it's like, hey, like I've gone through it. These are the things I've learned. You can either take it and learn from my mistakes,
Hmm.
or experience it for yourself and
Yeah.
kind of go through that growth.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and it's that delicate balance because you want people to make their own mistakes because you learn a little bit more from those mistakes, I
Hmm.
believe. But at the same time, you want to kind of shield them from those mistakes. And it's even something as simple as being able to give back and the community service that I did on campus, right? I didn't necessarily want to do that my first year. I didn't see
Hmm.
what the value was. I didn't understand that as I was pledging to become a member of Beta Alpha Psi, what the value was. And then I did it. And then I did it again. And then I did it again. And then I realized there's a lot more to this than just showing up and providing,
Yeah,
volunteer opportunities.
yeah.
That you are doing something that's more than just for yourself. And I think that actually was fundamental in me choosing to work with nonprofit organizations. Is it just kind of opened my eyes to what was possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned that your mom was an educator.
Hmm.
Now, you yourself are a lecturer at your alma mater.
I am.
So
Yeah.
how's that experience been?
It it, it was really crazy because I kind of fell. I don't even know what the right word is. I opened my mouth one too many times, and it led me to having this opportunity to be able to lecture on nonprofit accounting at USD.
Okay.
And it has been fundamentally game changing for me to be able to see from a different perspective that education process to understand what it really takes to be able to instill new information into other people and to have that kind of almost that aha or light bulb moment for the students where I start the semester and it really hasn't clicked yet. But you give it a couple weeks, and all of a sudden they're starting to pick things up. And then by the
Okay.
end of the semester, it's yeah, okay, we have it. I've got it. I understand what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it, and what we're trying to accomplish. So it's super cool to be able to go through that process. Um, and I've had some really unique experiences because I taught my first year in the first year pre-pandemic. Then I taught
Okay.
in a hybrid setting where they said we started in person and then went midway through. Okay, we're going virtual. I've taught virtual and then I taught back in a hybrid, and really just trying to embrace that change
Yeah.
and that evolution of what education's looked like over the course of
So
those
you have to
last.
be really flexible with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, absolutely, definitely very flexible, and I've made a ton of mistakes that I because I didn't know, right? We were
Okay.
all in this learning process and
Yeah.
trying to understand what it looked like, and yeah, just made those mistakes and learned from it, and just tried to figure out how do we make the best
Yeah.
of the situation that we were in.
Yeah. I mean, everyone was going through it. So
Right,
it wasn't like, hey, it's just a me issue or
right,
something like that. It's like,
yeah,
no, we're all trying to navigate the best way to go about this. And all this is uncharted territory
mhm.
for the most part.
Yep. Yep, for sure, and it was something I mean, sometimes it was as simple as could I get into the right Zoom meeting, right? Like,
Yeah.
just how do you even get in? But
Guilty.
just
Guilty.
just kept trying, kept working through it, and everybody was really super understanding, and so talk about that growth mindset, and it's like I tried to look at every one of those individual failures or challenges that we faced, and how do we get better, and how do I fix something that didn't work in week one of teaching virtual that could work in week two? How do I make that experience as good as it could be when we're all going through this, really draining and challenging experience? To me, that was always the best way to move forward.
Yeah. And I feel like it gives a sense of achievement when you see that aha moment in
Yeah.
your students that it's like, yes, this is actually
Yes.
working. You got to trust the process
Yep. Yep.
and they'll
Absolutely.
like trust that they'll pick it up on their end.
And I always thought that I had that ability, even prior to starting to teach, and when we were developing new staff and training new staff,
Mhm.
we would get that, but it wasn't that constant dedicated time. I didn't have weeks upon weeks of training with our new team members at Aldrich. That's just not it, not the reality. I think
Yeah,
that
yeah.
any firm can go through. Hey, we're going to keep this new staff on the sideline for 3 months while we're teaching them. Some of that is you're going to get that real world experience, but this was a great way to be able to do that and be able to teach through several weeks, several months worth of
Mhm.
aha moments, and make sure that we got to the right outcome at the end.
And then during your experience as a lecturer, has it ever come across your mind as far as like, okay, this specific student has a an act for going into or specializing in NFPs, or I can
Hmm.
see this person being um a high achiever,
Yep.
superstar in the making over here.
Yep. I mean, I would be lying to you if I didn't say that I went into it partly from again, that selfish perspective of, hey, if I go teach, that's going to give me additional exposure to prospective new hires. I would be lying if I didn't say that, because that was actually and is still part of my motive in
Mhm.
terms of teaching. Um, but it's a very small part. And yes, it does give me opportunity to see students from a different perspective, right? If I'm interviewing a student in a professional setting, I get 30 minutes, an hour with an individual, and I got to try to learn as much as I can
Mhm.
versus 40 or 50 hours with the student and get to see who's that high achiever, who has that penchant for maybe learning about nonprofits, who has just a natural leadership ability. There's intricate things about I'm going to take charge within a group setting, and how do you play within a group setting. So there are a lot of factors that being a lecturer gives me insight that I never really anticipated before I started.
So, what are you looking for in potential candidates, like during the hiring process? So, not necessarily while you're in the classroom
Sure.
setting, but like bringing it back to the professional side of
Yeah,
things.
absolutely. So we have an approach, I think, and I have really fully embraced this approach that for the most part, anybody that goes into accounting, I say the bar is a little bit higher for accounting professionals. I just think that that's where it is. I don't think that low achievers go into the profession of accounting.
Like
I
they weed
haven't,
themselves out.
they weed themselves out. I just haven't seen it over the course of my career. So I think that the bar is already a little bit higher than it would be maybe for some other professions. And so I'm looking for obviously somebody that's smart, but I think that kind of takes care of itself by you choosing to go into accounting. Um, and that I think once we get beyond an individual that's smart, we're looking for people that are willing to work. This is not necessarily the uh, least easy profession that you can go into.
Right.
Um, but I think it's somebody that's willing to put forth the effort that if you run into a roadblock, that you're willing to work past it, or you're willing to ask the questions, that you're willing to do a little bit more to try to figure that out. Um, and that it's, again, not the easiest thing all the time, but I think that people that are the most successful are the ones that are adaptable to that,
Mhm.
and see this challenge as not a finality or an endpoint, but really as a growth potential and someplace that they can learn and grow from. I also look for people that are, nice. Like you're going to spend, and this is whether you're working in public accounting or any other profession, financial profession, you're spending 8+ hours a day with with people that are on your team. So if they're not nice,
Yeah, that can be tough.
it's really hard, right? You're
That can
sitting
be
in a
tough.
room with somebody for 8 hours a day, and you don't enjoy the person.
Mhm.
You're not going to have a really great time
Yeah,
with your job. And for something that takes so much of your daily to day life, why would you want to do something and put yourself in a position where you don't enjoy the people? And that's one of the funny things when go to recruiting events or be part of recruiting events. Uh, Most of the time, it's always, what are you looking for? Part of the thing is the environment and the people
mhm,
that you're working with. And I think every firm says it's the people. Why do they go to that particular firm? Why do you stay at a particular
1,000%.
firm? It's the people. Well, it really is. It's not 1,000%. It's 1,000,000%. To me, it's the
Mhm.
most important thing. It's people that you can get along with, that you enjoy. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people that I feel that connection to. And then I think the last piece, which I think is almost paramount to anything else, is somebody that has some ambition, that has some life ambition. That why did you get into accounting, or why do you, even though you went through, what are you hoping to get out of this? I recognize that not every person that goes into public accounting is going to stay in public accounting forever. Um, but I want you to be ambitious during the time that you're there, whether that's a year or 5 years or 10 years or your whole career. I want you to want more for yourself, um, and I'll help you do that, and we'll help you do that. So
Oh, I love that. If anything, it shows, like, the passion that that candidates usually have when they're in that career, because you see, like, when they start out their career, they wanna have, like, the best chances to excel.
yeah,
They're really you see the excitement,
yeah,
and then, I mean, when it comes to when you were saying if someone's a good fit,
hmm,
or at least with their coworkers, that when we're going through busy season,
right,
I mean, those are that's a tough, like, 4 or 5 months.
yeah,
And so really that's the true test of, "Hey, can I work with these people?"
yep,
Like, when we're going like, can I be with them during the not only the good times, but also the tough times?
yeah.
And so I really feel like busy season is just probably the ultimate test of, like, "Hey, is this a good fit for me?"
I agree. I agree. I've actually had some of my best times during what have been the most challenging times throughout my
Mhm.
career, because of the people that we're with, and we know that we're all in it together.
Yeah.
And so we are a team. We become more than a team. It's a true work family, a true family, because you're, all of a sudden in busy season, those hours ramp up. You're spending a lot of time. I've done a fair bit of travel during my career, and so imagine you're on the road with somebody for not just 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day. You're
True.
spending the better part of 24 hours. Right? Obviously, we're separating for going to sleep and that kind of stuff, but wake up, you're eating breakfast together, you're
Yeah, you're
working
spending the
together,
whole
you're
day
lunching
together.
together, you're working, you're dining, we're working late. I mean, you're just spending the whole day with them. And so you really get to know somebody on a true personal level when you go through those types of experiences.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay, okay. But, I mean, so to wrap things up, we always ask, our guests the same question.
Mhm.
How has BAP helped you become a professional?
I love that question. And I want to share, I, I was really fortunate. When I was in school, I got a chance to attend several regional meetings, a couple national meetings. I was really spoiled. I got San Diego, Las Vegas,
Wow.
Anaheim, uh, and Hawaii were
Oh my gosh,
places that I
you
got to
went
go
to the
to.
Hawaii
I
meeting?
did, I did. So this is where these are the
That
experiences. So I definitely got spoiled. So I don't want to
okay.
make it out like I was in it just. I mean, I got to do some really cool things. I
Yeah.
got to do some amazing best practice presentations. I really got to be a participant in a lot of really cool experiences. And so from me though, the biggest thing that I got out of it off the side was just the broadening of my horizons.
Mhm.
Born and raised on the West Coast, Southern California, that's what I knew. I got exposed to people from different parts of the country, from different experiences, from different backgrounds, which I thought was super cool. And I've been part of how do you expand your network. I thought that's been profound in my career, being able to build these instant bonds with people and develop relationships. I think the experiences that I've gotten in terms of I did a best practice that was really good, and I did a best
Yeah.
practice that was not so good. And I learned from the not so good that I did the first year and made it better. We learned from those mistakes and made it better. And so I think those things and those unique challenges that we faced helped accelerate us to be better. And so I think how I learned how to public speak, that was a big part of it.
Yeah, best practices, that's the way
We
to
just
go.
didn't do a good job of communicating and effectively communicate. So I think relationships are a big one. My ability to be able to effectively communicate, and really just having a network that I can rely and fall back on, so I can meet and do incredible things like this. I think have been profound on my career. So
Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. But that's pretty much all the time that we have today. Guys, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow us from whatever platform you're tuning in from. Also, check out the show notes for our various social media pages and official BAP swag. Bobby, thank you so much
yeah,
for guesting on our podcast. It was
absolutely.
such a pleasure to hear your story.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Perfect. And so, with that, we'll see you on the next episode of Becoming a Professional. Hey everyone, Riley here with the credits. This episode, titled Growth Mindset with Bobby LaCour, was hosted and produced by yours truly, Riley Ramos, and accompanied by our special guest, Bobby LaCour. The episode was recorded and edited by The Podcast Place in Long Beach, California, so be sure to check out that studio. Great people. Music was sourced from Resolute Audio and Fine Tune Music on Adobe Stock. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode of Becoming a Professional.